the Catholic Church, it's like the Orthodox, right?
Yeah.
No, Slovenia is Catholic. No,
So they're Roman Catholic in Slovenia?
Yeah. So if you go back to before Yugoslavia was split up, it was really the melting pot of all the major culture/religions of the world. Because in Yugoslavia, you had Muslim, you had Catholic, Roman Catholic, and then you had Orthodox Church, so the Russian, Greek version of the Orthodox Church. It was the real melting pot, and that was part of what caused Yugoslavia to start fighting. So Croatia and Slovenia are very Catholic, and they are very Austrian in ancestry, whereas Serbia and Montenegro and Bosnia-Herzegovina are very Slavic, so very Orthodox in ancestry, and then Albania and a bit of Bosnia as well was very Muslim. So in that region, it was all three of those monotheistic cultures really, getting together.
And don't forget the linguistic stuff going on there, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Croatia's gorgeous, though, isn't it? The country itself.
And so is Slovenia, is absolutely beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
We used to holiday in Croatia every year when I was a little girl. We used to go to Split and Sarajevo, and it's stunning, and the Adriatic Sea is absolutely beautiful.
So that's your Big Gay World for this week.
Do you occasionally suffer from bouts of rationality, cognizance, and literacy? Are you constantly baffled by the failure of your fellow hominids to comprehend simple principles like evidence, statistical significance, confirmation bias, and logic? Do your jaws ache from constantly holding your tongue in polite company? Do you find yourself tempted to stand on tables and scream, "The Bible also says rabbits chew their cud"? That's not an allegory, and I'm not reading it out of context, you frothing nincompoops. It's just wrong! Well, then we have the book for you. The Scathing Atheist presents Diatribes, Volume 1, 50 Essays from a Godless Misanthrope. This collection of epic rants was painstakingly chosen as the 50 best diatribes presented on the Scathing Atheist podcast out of the first 50. It's as effective against headaches as homeopathy, as accurate at predicting the future as astrology, more powerful than a power band bracelet, more efficient than a dowsing rod, and more potent than prayer. So look for it at an online ebook retailer near you or find it at scathingatheist.com. Diatribes, Volume 1, 50 Essays from a Godless Misanthrope by No Illusions.
Claims in this ad have not been evaluated by the FDA. Ebooks may be harmful or fatal if swallowed. If you experience an erection lasting more than 4 hours, you must be doing something right.
So we're back from commercial break, and so I have a topic that I want to bring up, and it's more for our American listeners than for our Canadian listeners. Well, for our Canadian listeners too. I want to talk about a living standard or minimum living wage. So in both of our countries right now, we have unemployment insurance, we have welfare, we have food banks, we have old age security, we have, if you're in the military, you can get dental, you can get other things. What is being talked about in Canada and what has been implemented in some of the Northern European social democracy countries is the living standard. So I'm not going to put an exact amount on it because each country will vary. So in Finland, it's in Canadian dollars, it's $1,280 a month. What it would be in the U.S., I have no idea. Basically, what it
also it varies where you are. Because like if you live in like Canada versus if you live in like Alabama,
it's going to, like if you live in Ottawa to where Chris lives, it's going to be a big difference in rent. Obviously, living in the capital of Canada, my rent is a lot higher than where Chris lives in Jacksonville, Florida. But the basic concept of it is that if you are a seasonal worker or you are somebody that works at Walmart, your country or the region of your country will set a standard living rate that puts you above the poverty line and puts you at a productive part of society, And if your income from your job doesn't meet that, then you will receive income from your tax dollars that are spent, and everybody's tax dollars that are spent that will match that. So just for argument's sake, we'll put it at 25,000. So with the minimum living wage, you can erase welfare, and with erasing welfare, you erase dental benefits, you erase bus passes, you erase food bank, you erase a whole lot of social systems that the government already pays for. Alongside that, when you're laid off in both Canada and the U.S., you can get unemployment insurance. If you have a living wage standard, the living wage standard would erase the need for EI, so seasonal workers, when they were done working, they wouldn't need to go and apply for EI. It would erase the need for old age security because everybody in your society would be getting this living wage. With the living wage, when it puts you above the poverty line, it makes you a productive spending part of the economy. So if you are only getting, say, $900 a month from welfare, you're not exactly going to be out there spending money. Your money is going to be very little when it comes to that. So if you had the money from a living wage, you are going to be a productive spending part. You're going to be buying clothes, you're going to be buying toothpaste, you're going to be buying food. You're not going to have to take advantage of the food stamps or the food banks. So in essence, it actually would save you money. Now, I do understand the thought process in will it make our society lazy? But what you need to ask yourself is, are you happy with just having enough? Because I know I'm not. Because just say you're making $25,000 a year. That's not really giving you enough to go on vacation. That's not giving you enough to buy a brand new truck. That's not giving you enough to go buy this. So alongside of having the living wage and a social democracy, you still need to have the free market and capitalism. Now, the free market and capitalism needs to be regulated in a way that it benefits the average citizen, and it doesn't benefit the Koch brothers, or it doesn't benefit the billionaire companies. When you have a system like that, it is more productive. When your health is covered right off the bat, when your shelter is covered right off the bat, when you have clothing on your back, your self-esteem is up and you are more part of the society. When you're more part of the society, you're more apt to get a job and to want more. And that's just the plain truth of the matter. You can listen to the right-wing politics in the States because they're very rich and they actually don't care whether or not you have a living wage because they're going to be rich whether or not you have it. But believe me when I tell you that the social democracy and the living standard is more important than anything. Healthcare is at the very base of this, and it should be a right, not a privilege of the people that have money, or not a privilege of the people that can afford to pay the premiums and can afford to pay for the insurance. It should be a basic right. Your healthcare is a need. There is a reason why there is less infant deaths in every other industrialized nation other than the United States, and that is because of the base fundamental of the living wage healthcare system.
So I get off stage, right?
Now, does anybody have anything to add to that? Because I've had a few pops and I'm done.
Just to piggyback on that, it's about needs, right? Because if you look at the happiest places, my sound is doing something weird, but if you look at the happiness index in all these countries, you'll see that these countries have basic needs met, and whether it's usually the government addresses the basic needs. So once you have all those bases covered, then you are free, as you said, Dave, to be happy, to explore, to spend more money, to get a better education, whatever.
And you always want more, right? Like when you get to that place, when your basic needs are met, you honestly, and I know that Americans, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but it kind of really pisses me off I know and then not my American friends, because Chris, I know you don't think this, but a lot of Americans think that people are going to get lazy in the system, and it's just not fucking true, man. It's just not true. You always want to make your situation better. And if you don't, you're depressed, and you need healthcare to make you fucking better.
There's a piece about this that, as somebody I was born in 1969. I was born in time that, even though I don't remember it, I saw the Apollo mission come to fruition. I saw the pictures from the moon, even though I don't remember them because I was a few months old. When you have the money going into something that should not be able to have happen, amazing things happen. You fast forward from that point into the beginning of the 80s, when Reaganomics and trickle-down economics said people are going to have more money at the top, they will spend more money so that there can be more people purchasing by encouraging more people to have jobs and expanding their businesses, and everybody will be happy. And we are now far enough removed from the 80s that we can look back and go, okay, what's the data show? I'm pretty sure the data shows it didn't work. It was a failed experiment. What we're now talking about is completely inverting that model. Stop giving the extra money to the top and having it come down. How about making sure that the money starts from the ground and works its way up? And somehow or other, that seems to be so annoying to everybody. And yet here in the United States, over half of our national spending goes towards military.
Mm.
Why can't some of that, why can't 10%, let's even call it 5%, why can't 5% of that go towards other stuff? I mean, you double NASA's budget, it's still pittance by comparison, and look what we get out of that. We could put $1 billion per state into education. What would be wrong with that? Why can't the individual people be empowered by getting a little bit more money? What is wrong with that? Because I don't think it's just people are going to get lazy. I think it's people think that there's going to be an entitlement idea and that there's something just simply ideologically wrong for some reason with going from the bottom up instead of from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a cultural thing in the U.S., and that hurts so many people.
I was just going to say, I think in the US specifically, I think part of the problem is that the trickle-down economics has created the welfare state. So because the minimum wage is so non-livable in the US, I'm not sure what it's like in Canada, but the minimum wage here in New Zealand...
It pays your rent and puts food on the table.
Exactly right. The minimum wage here in New Zealand and in Australia is something that doesn't require people to get two jobs. They can absolutely live, within their means. I mean, it's obviously not 2 holidays a year or whatever, but it's certainly comfortable enough to not be dependent on the government.
If you do the exchange rate, it's the same from Australia to Canada. So in Australia, it's 17. In Canada, it's like around 12.
Yeah, and in New Zealand, I think it's something like 16 or 15, somewhere around there as well.
So with the exchange rates, it's around the same. I'm not going to say that it's exact.
Whereas in the US, even though minimum wage in some states is reaching $15, there's a bigger cultural issue with regards to food service industry, where their wages are not part of the minimum wage legislation, and so waitresses and people working in the food service industry can have a $2 an hour pay rate, and they live off tips. So what you're creating is you're forcing the government to subsidise that. So already the government is subsidising that in the US.
Hang on. Son, I'm not saying this always happens, but legally the employer is supposed to make up the difference if they don't make at least minimum wage.
Right. Mm-hmm. Which, look, the whole culture, to me, looking in to the US is a